Tsez, also known as Dido, is a Northeast Caucasian language with about 15,354 speakers spoken by the Tsez, a Muslim people in the mountainous Tsunta District of southwestern Dagestan in Russia. The name is said to derive from the Tsez word for eagle, which is most likely a folk etymology. The name Dido is derived from the Georgian word meaning big. Tsez lacks a literary tradition and is poorly represented in written form. Ava and Russian are used as literary languages locally, even in schools. However, attempts have been made to develop a stable orthography for the Tsez language as well as its relatives, mainly for the purpose of recording traditional folklore. Thus, a Cyrillic script based on that of Ava is often used. Fluency of Ava is usually higher among men than women, and the younger people tend to be more fluent in Russian than in Tsez, which is probably due to the lack of education in and about the language. Tsez is not taught in school, and instead Ava is taught for the first 5 years and Russian afterwards. The vocabulary shows many traces of influences of Ava, Georgian, Arabic and Russian, mainly through loanwords and, in the case of Russian, even in grammar and style. There are also loanwords of Turkic origin. These factors may eventually lead to the decline of use of the Tsez language, as it is more and more replaced by Ava and Russian, partly due to loss of traditional culture among the people and the adoption of Western clothing, technology and architecture. Tsez grammar was first analyzed by the Georgian linguist David Timurashvili in 1963. Currently, a collection of Tsez folklore texts is in production. Dialects. Tsez can be divided into the following dialects, with their Tsez names given in parentheses: Hasik Sabari, Mokik, Kadero Shatel, Shapik, Sagada. The examples in this article are based on the Sabari subdialect of Attic. The Sagada dialect is notable for its divergence from the others. Kinloch and Korshi were also once regarded as dialects of the Tsez language but are now commonly viewed as distinct languages of the same family. Phonology. Each phoneme is listed with its IPA, Latin, and Cyrillic transcriptions. Consonants. Tsez shows an inventory of 33 consonants. The glottal stop is not phonemic but occurs automatically before non-pharyngealized vowels in word initial position. Consonant clusters are often broken up by inserting the epenthetic vowel after the inserted vowel is. Word initial consonants can be pharyngealized and are marked as such in the proposed orthography by a small following the consonant. In the Cyrillic spelling, a palochka is used after the vowel that follows the consonant. A syllable final pharyngealization of the consonant is transcribed in Cyrillic with C in with VC in the Latin transcription. Some dictionaries write this as VC though, which makes the sequence CVC ambiguous. A syllable initial pharyngealization of the consonant is transcribed in Cyrillic with CV and with CV in the Latin transcription. The pharyngealization itself is reported to be epiglottal. Labialized consonants are written as C in the Cyrillic and as C in the Latin transcription, respectively. Any consonant besides N, L, J, and bilabials can be labialized. Vowels. The Sabari dialect has only one long vowel A. A vowel is dropped before another vowel, so there are never two consecutive vowels. However, a final U labializes the preceding consonant if followed by a vowel. Word initial E is spelled in Cyrillic. In the proposed Cyrillic orthography, yo can also be written as. In the Asic dialect, lengthened vowels are automatically neutralized to A. Other dialects also have a low front vowel, usually transcribed as A in Latin and in Cyrillic. Some also have a long mid-back rounded vowel, transcribed as O. Phonotactics. The syllable structure is generally CV. There are no vowel clusters. It is an agglutinative language with a complex morphology. Suffixes are either CV, CV, VC, C plus CV, depending on the structure of the stem. An example is the superessive suffix, which attached to the word bisiro forms bisiro and together with this forms iso in order to maintain the syllable restriction. Morphology. Nouns are inflected for number and case, and have noun classes assigned to them. Number nouns can either be singular or plural. The plural is formed by adding by to the stem in the absolutive case, bisiro, bisiro, by. For all other cases, the suffix is za, thus, of the fish, becomes bisiros rs. Case. There are 8 syntactical and a much larger number of locative cases, which distinguish 3 categories: location, orientation, and direction. Thus, counting the locative and non-locative cases together, there are a total of 64 cases. Tsez is an ergative absolutive language, which means that it makes no distinction between the subject of an intransitive sentence and the object of a transitive one. Both are in the unmarked absolutive case. The subject of the transitive sentence is in the ergative case. According to Ramazan-Rajabov, the oblique stem of 42% of the nouns is different from the absolutive stem. Some nouns change their internal structure, but others add one of about 20 so-called thematic suffixes to their end, to which the other case suffixes are attached. For example, the word for language or tongue is mec, but its oblique stem is mecr, hence its plural is mekrebi, the ergative mekra, and so on. Rajabov says that the choice of the correct thematic suffix is sometimes difficult even for native speakers. It is likely that their origin lies in an application of 2 different plural forms. In a similar way as in English, the word children actually has 2 archaic plural endings, r and n. In Tsez it is sometimes even possible to use both the archaic and the regular and more productive biplural for a word. Syntactic case suffixes of the 2 genitive cases. The first is used as attribute to an absolutive head noun and the second to an oblique one. That means that the genitive one is used for phrases like zeqs and the genitive 2 is used for zeqz. The equative one is used to make comparisons, like bisiro ce, and can also be attached to other cases. Rajabov suggests 3 more syntactical cases, namely possessive 1, possessive 2 and abessive. However, the status is debatable, as they seem to show both inflectional as well as derivational tendencies. Locative case suffixes. The allative case is also called versative. In the distal paradigm, it is used in the sense of behind or beyond, and is then called posterior. Of the forms, the upper one shows the non-distal, the lower one the distal form of the suffix. In the non-distal, there are sometimes 2 equal forms for the allative case. The epenthetic vowel o in parentheses is used after noun stems ending in a consonant, thus, next to the bull is exo, while next to the fish is basiro x. Noun classes. Tsez distinguishes 4 noun classes in the singular and 2 in the plural. They are prefixes that are attached to verbs, adjectives, adverbs. Several postpositions like o or il and the emphatic particle uy to show agreement with the noun. Agreement is only possible on vowel initial words or words that begin with a pharyngealized vowel, but there are also a few words beginning with a vowel that do not take these prefixes. As inanimate objects cover the classes 2, 3 and IV, it's not transparent into which class an inanimate object belongs. However, there are certain tendencies based on the semantic field of the nouns. Nouns that are able to move usually belong to class 3. while products that traditionally have to do with the work of women often belong to Class 2. Clothes made from leather, as the word for leather itself, usually assigned to Class 3, due to the relation to animals. Class 4 originally included abstract words, collective and mass nouns, such as water, salt, sky or wind. Materials also often seem to trigger noun classes. Chair and wood are both Class 4 nouns. Also, shape seems to have an influence. In the same manner, proper names are assigned the classes of the nouns they denote. Thus, Pattaya is assigned Class 2 because it's a female name, and Asaq belongs to Class 3 because village is also in this group. Likewise, new loanwords are assigned the noun class of a semantically similar existing Tsez word. Experiments have shown that Tsez speakers do not assign any noun classes to new words for objects they do not know or where they do not know what they look like. Certain derivational endings also require a specific noun class. See the section about derivation below. Verbs and adverbs always agree with the absolutive argument of the phrase, regardless of the clause's transitivity. If more than one absolutive argument is linked by the conjunction and one of them is of the first noun class, then Class 1 plural triggers the agreement for the clause, otherwise, it is Class 2, 3, IV plural. Compare. And pronouns. Personal pronouns. Personal pronouns exist in Tsez only for the first and second person. For the third person the demonstratives ze and zedi are used. As the singular personal pronouns have the same form in absolutive and ergative, a sentence like dimokc is ambiguous, because it can both mean I hit you and you hit me, due to the rather free word order. However, they have a different form for the oblique cases and an irregular form in the genitive 1 case, the same as the plural pronouns. The singular pronouns also have the same forms for all 4 noun classes, while the plurals make this distinction, as shown in the chart below. This form is used before a syllable final consonant, such as the suffix r. This form is used before a syllable initial consonant, such as the suffix -d. The special forms of the 2 genitives is used when the possessor is a close group, typically a family. Thus Eli-eniy is used for our mother instead of lcniy. The plural demonstrative zedi also shows this feature, being zedi in the close group genitive 1 and z is in the close group genitive 2. For ordinary possessors these forms would be zs and zs, respectively. There is also a reflexive personal pronoun, meaning self or oneself, which is so and ni in its oblique form, respectively. Demonstrative pronouns. Demonstrative pronouns are suffixes that are attached to the corresponding noun. They inflect for noun classes, number and case, and make a two-way distinction into proximal and distal, the latter of which are also used as third-person pronouns. The oblique forms are used attributively and also as a base to which other case suffixes can be attached. The L forms are used optionally after vowels at the end of words. Interrogative pronouns. Interrogative pronouns make a distinction between human and non-human only in the oblique forms, but not in the absolutive. The non-human interrogative pronouns require the class 4 affix when triggering agreement. Interrogative pronouns that are replacing an adjunct usually occur at the beginning of the sentence, while those replacing arguments often stay in the position of the replaced word. However, they can be fronted as well for the purpose of discourse-specific linking. Thus, a fronted sepi might be translated as which, instead of what, Other interrogative pronouns include dice, didu, Dido, Lena est. This seems to be the genitive 1 form of the non-human oblique interrogative pronoun. na, stem na, neti, cedar, somo. Verbs. Tsez has a rich verbal morphology with many categories. Despite the great variety in conjugation, the only truly irregular verb is to be, with some forms being yol, anus, of, etc. There are four morphological groups, according to the final phoneme of the stem. The first group ends in a consonant, the second in I, the third in U, and the fourth group contains the verbs with the variable ending D, Y. Tense. Aspect. Mood. There are 5 tense forms in the indicative mood, shown in the following table with examples for verbs with vocalic and consonantal stem endings. The past forms make an evidentiality distinction. In interrogative sentences, the past witnessed suffix is a instead of s. In yes-no questions, the finite verb receives the additional ending a, except for the past witnessed form, which receives the ending iya. Of the two different future tenses, the definite one bears the connotation of being wanted by the speaker and is only used with the first person, while the indefinite one tends to be used with second and third. Other moods are formed as follows. The imperative has no suffix for intransitive verbs and the suffix so for transitive verbs. The verb is usually put in the first position in the phrase, then the optative adds a to the imperative form, e.g. taro. There is also a great variety of analytical forms for verbs often exhibiting aspectual meaning. Emphatic future equals infinitive plus to be, e.g. ika yol. Continuous aspect equals imperfect gerund plus to be, e.g. ix of c. Perfective aspect equals perfect gerund plus to be, e.g. ins of c. Perfect equals resultative participle plus to be, e.g. iksis of c. Intentive equals present participle plus to be, e.g. ixocs of c. Resultative equals imperfective perfective gerund plus resultative participle of ici plus to be, e.g. ikinicis of c or ikixis of c. Negation. The basic negation suffix in the indicative is cv, with v being a vowel that can be different depending on the tense, aspect, mood of the verb. It is inserted after the verb stem. With the example verb ikai, the following forms are possible. The prohibitive is expressed by adding the suffix no to the future indefinite form of the verb, e.g. as no. The negative optative form simply adds a to that, as no. Non-finite forms, participles behave like adjectives and only vary according to the class agreement, which gets attached to them as prefixes. There are several different kinds of participles in the Tsez language. The stem vowel here is the vowel before the last consonant. Note that stems, different from roots, include causatives, thus ik-I becomes ak-I, but its causative form ik-ir becomes ik-ar. Sometimes also unarticulated epenthetic vowels can be lengthened to et, as in tar, which becomes tar. Converbs, like gerunds and verbal adverbs, are very numerous in Tsez. The following list gives only an incomplete account. The table illustrates the relationship between the temporal converb and the main verb. Other non-temporal converbs are perfective and imperfective converbs are identical to the past unwitnessed and present forms respectively. An locative converb, za, stem vowel changes to a causal converb, xoy zarazaku, e.g. is xoy. Conditional converb, naali, e.g. is nay. Concessive converb, lin. Infinitive, is et. Verbal noun, ni, e.g. is ani and rekni. Potential and causative. The potential mood receives the suffix -l, while the causative mood's suffix is -r. Again, the epenthetic vowel is dropped when the stem ends in a vowel or if another suffix starting with a vowel is attached, together with the definite future suffixes and, for instance, the epenthetic vowel has to be dropped, is but is -aran. Particles. Tsez has a rich set of particles, most of them occurring as clitics. The particle to shows general emphasis while kin shows general emphasis and focusing. A contrastively topicalized constituent is marked by the particle gon. Being clitics, they can be attached to any part of speech. There is also a quotation particle that is used in direct reported speech and appears as the suffix in that always appears at the end of the quoted phrase or sentence. Example: Dizek yol in exkaa. There are also other free particles like do or y. Word formation. Derivation. Noun forming suffixes. The following list is a selection of suffixes used to form nouns from other parts of speech as well as other nouns. By z. Residence, e.g. new by, newsy, abstract nouns and occupations, e.g. li, usi tel li, rigu li. Ku. Instruments are personal descriptions, e.g. you know ku, iyaku. Ni. Abstract nouns, e.g. rekni, oini, qu of the letter used to r suffix qan. Container or occupation, e.g. magala qu, boc kido qan. Qoy, hoi. Enveloping objects, e.g. riqoy. Yo. Possessor, e.g. got you are yo. Adjective forming suffixes. The following suffixes can be used to derive adjectives from other words. Mu. Simple adjective, e.g. borio mu, atai mu, sarkaria mu. Say. Inseparable possessing, e.g. kakario se ke. Te. Absence lacking, e.g. siyote. Zu. Separable possessing, e.g. siyo zura. The verb-forming suffixes. Some verb-forming suffixes, like the causative and potential derivatives, have already been mentioned in the section about the verbal morphology. Other examples include k. Transitive verbs, e.g. at ik, that ok, licok. L. Intransitive verbs, e.g. at il, adx. Compounding and reduplication. In Tsez it is also possible to create new words from combining existing ones. Usually nouns and verbs are derived, but there also exist compound adjectives and adverbs. Only the last component of the compound inflects, as it is the head of the phrase. However, it does not necessarily govern the noun class assignment for compound nouns. If one of the two components belongs to class 1, then the whole compound is of this class, otherwise it is automatically assigned to noun class 2. Sometimes the last component is truncated. Suffixation may also occur. The following list is not exhaustive. Debbie daily quarrel, dividing up any obiy or any obu. Parents. Hot ocl, stirrup. Ikenex, to go back and forth. Iriku, shawl. Nigasi udipros. Riguzuka, anything. Tako niko, back and forth. Tiadicc hash. Another common way to derive new words is reduplication, which can derive nouns, as well as adjectives and verbs. In reduplicating nouns, the initial syllable can often undergo a change, as in xisi basi, changes, or bixmix. It is used to intensify adjectives and verbs, but is also used for onomatopoeia. Another highly productive way of forming verbs is the combination of a word and the Tsez verbs oq or od, although some combinations can also be formed with other verbs. Note that only the second word is inflected, while the first one remains uninflected. Some examples are: burson oq, to be decorated, beautiful; paradat ode, to sell, razwad biod, to divorce, divorce; re to plow, rock-o-r-I to remember, rock-u-r-exu to feel pity, sap-u-y-ode to destroy, t-m-e-z-ode to cause to force, was-is-o-q to fly, shab-u-b-ode to talk, news, message, virava story.